Spectre, the 24th installment of the James Bond film series, can best be described as a puzzle whose pieces just don't fit together. At least not very well. All of the parts are there for the making of a good, or at least decent spy movie, but they seem to be forced together, and the end result is a picture that leaves the audience more bored than anything else. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge James Bond fan. When someone once said to me that they should have stopped making James Bond movies a long time ago, after asking him if he had seen Casino Royale, he responded, "Have you ever seen Moonraker?" I told him more times over the last 30 years than you could ever possibly know. So it takes a lot for me to say that a Bond movie isn't very good, considering that Casino Royale and Skyfall are two of the best films in the franchise's 50-year history, and for all its problems, I still don't think Quantum of Solace was the stinker that everyone makes it out to be. But what drags Spectre down is the attempt to force pieces together that simply just do not fit. Spectre picks up shortly after the events in Skyfall, where James Bond is tracking an assassin in Mexico City in an unofficial capacity. After a huge set-piece moment, Bond returns to London to learn that MI6 is being merged with the MI5 and that the 00 program is about to be scrapped. Following a lead that brings him to Rome, he runs across a shadow organization that we're told has been pulling the strings behind the scenes all along and has infiltrated Her Majesty's Secret Service. Their plan? To use its new surveillance program to take over the world, and it's up to Bond, Moneypenny, Q, and M to stop them. If any of this sounds familiar, it should. It's because it's the plot of Captain America the Winter Soldier, swapping out James Bond for Captain America, MI6 for S.H.I.E.L.D., and Spectre for Hydra. The real problem is not so much a lack of originality, but execution, as it was done so much better in Captain America. But the biggest thing wrong with Spectre is that it attempts to build a larger continuity by trying to connect the three previous Bond films, and only does so by offering references to them. And for all of director Sam Mendes' efforts, the dots don't exactly line up. Spectre is the equivalent of assembling a jigsaw puzzle that, when fully pieced together, still doesn't look quite right when you take a step back and look at the whole picture. If you go back and watch the previous films, there's really very little to suggest that any of these events are interconnected, and attempting to squash them all together after the fact amounts to horrible retcon. At the very least, we do get another piece of evidence that hopefully will finally refute the insipidly stupid fan codename theory. Daniel Craig is, as always, fantastic in his portrayal of James Bond. But his biggest enemy in this film is an uninteresting story, as the sequence of events plods along from one location to the next, lacking any real intrigue to keep the audience invested. Naomi Harris is back as Eve Moneypenny, and she has more to do in this film than she did in Skyfall, and it's great to see them expanding her character. Ralph Fiennes is terrific as M and brings a much-needed sense of gravitas to the role. Ben Whishaw returns as Q and reminds us why we like this character so much. For all the talk of Monica Bellucci being a more mature woman in a Bond film, she gets a total of maybe 5 minutes of screen time. There's a passing reference to Felix Leiter, and then she just disappears. French actress Léa Seydoux plays Dr. Madeleine Swann, whose connection to the previous film seems forced at best. But the weak link in the cast is oddly enough Christoph Waltz, who plays, spoiler, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, as if that was a revelation. He shows up partway through the second act as a shadowy figure in Rome, and then doesn't reappear until well near the film's climax to reveal that somehow he was the mastermind behind all the events in the three previous Daniel Craig Bond films. Director Sam Mendes sets this up as a bombshell moment, yet it falls completely flat, mainly because the three pre-existing films have so little to do with each other. As a result, that connection seems contrived rather than giving you any sort of impact. Mendes, along with screenwriters John Logan and Neil Purvis, felt it was more important to connect the three previous Bond films with Spectre, the result of which is a deus ex machina that feels lazy, contrived, and cheap. Dave Bautista, who appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy, makes an appearance as the henchman Mr. Hinks, but unfortunately his character lacks any personality. He shows up, kills somebody, gets into a car chase, fights Bond on a train, and that's about it. It's a role that could have been played by anybody. The action scenes, a staple of any Bond movie, come off as mechanical and boring. Unlike in other Bond films, here they feel wedged into the script. We've seen car chases before in these films, only done so much better. The only difference here is they seem to have said, hey, we haven't done one in Rome yet, let's try that. Spectre isn't all bad. There's some fantastic cinematography, and the locations give the film a sense of scale that you expect from a 007 movie. The opening scene in Mexico City during the Day of the Dead celebration features a long tracking shot that aesthetically sets the tone for the film and seems hypnotic as it moves through the crowd of revelers. But as the film advances and changes from location to location, it feels more methodical than a natural progression from A to B. Spectre is in many respects a letdown. I saw this movie a couple days ago, and the more I think about it now, the less I like it. There's the building blocks of a good movie here, but unfortunately, poor execution and attempts at building a larger continuity drag it down. Once again, we see a common problem creep into the James Bond series, and it's that directors will try to make Bond trendy. Bond doesn't need to be trendy. It's James Bond. It doesn't follow trends, it sets them. James Bond will return, and hopefully it will be in a better movie. Spectre gets a disappointing 2.5 out of 6 Chewbaccas. That's it for now. See you next time.